The government is murdering tens of thousands of its citizens every year. They're almost all white. And under the MAID's program, they're harvesting the organs from the Canadians they kill. And no one's saying a word about it.
It's becoming one of the leading causes of death.
It is one of the leading causes of death.
Is assisted suicide. I mean, just
the government killing you, and not because you have ALS, but because you can't pay your rent, and then extending it to children, and then harvesting the organs and the blood. I mean, I feel like they're a way bigger threat to the United States than Venezuela. I would be open to an argument in favor of invading and occupying Canada on human rights grounds. I'm not joking even a tiny bit. I think it's one of the darkest countries in the world, and it's such a great country with such great people. I don't know how we can allow this to happen without at least saying something about it. I'm not actually arguing for military action, but like maybe threatening it.
Yeah, well, the MAID program alone is one of the most evil things happening in the world, period.
Murdering your citizens and harvesting their organs on a greater scale than China does? Really? And it's right there?
Oh, buddy. Hello, guys. David Vos here. I don't know why I'm even laughing here at this clip. I guess I'm not. Certainly not funny. But guys, I'm David Vos, and it's a beautiful day. And I hope you're having a wonderful day where you are. Well, evidently, there's a lot of people not having a very good day up in Canada. According to Tucker Carlson, remember, that is our CIA special agent over propaganda in the United States. His father ran as a CIA agent, ran the propaganda department for the United States for years over PBS and other huge propaganda programs, and was familiar and was operating under the MK Ultra mind control. That man is CIA. Now, here's the problem, though, and this is how they do it. He's telling you the truth. The Canadian government is murdering people. It's one of the biggest causes of death. And actually, the government murdering people is the number one and probably just about the only cause of death in Canada and in the United States and everywhere in the world. And I'm going to show you what I asked AI about this to see what AI had to say for itself, and let the financiers who are paying for this AI, which is the great deception of Satan, to give Satan's side of the story. Oh, we're not really killing them. We're just tickling to death. It's all right. It ain't our fault. They want to die, so we let them. Well, they don't want to, and I will show you what's really going on here in just a moment. But I think before I do that, because a lot of you out there have a very poor attention span, and if I go into the nitty-gritty of this right here now, some of you will drift off and click off. So I want to share with you what is really the most important part of all of this. And then we'll get to the nitty-gritty or the details so you can see that it's really happening. And you'll see what Satan says about himself when we catch him red-handed, right? Little Tom Thumb, who sat in a corner to eat his plum pie, stuck in his thumb, pulled out a plum, and said, "Oh, what a good boy am I." So, if Tucker Carlson's working for the CIA over propaganda, why is he telling us the truth? Because, I never thought we'd see the day where our number one news talker, one of the talking heads that is so believed and loved by all of the masses, like way better or bigger than Dan Rather, Mr. Tucker Carlson is telling us the truth that governments around the world, like Canada, and he says it's the worst atrocities that's ever been committed by man, where government is literally taking and killing their people, murdering them, and then taking their organs and their blood and selling it to vampires, basically. And I know a lot of you are laughing, but that's exactly the truth. I'm going to show you that. But think about the fact that about, I don't, what was it about? Was it, I don't even know when it was, a couple of years ago, that he was, Tucker Carlson was basically the head anchor over at Fox News. He took over from Bill O'Reilly. Now, Bill O'Reilly was this hard-nosed conservative guy. And it was, back then, Fox News was kind of conservative, right? Supposedly. And they really liked Trump. Well, they're still supposedly conservative, but they fired Tucker Carlson. They fired Megyn Kelly. And now it's Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson that are the moving force behind all the propaganda that appears to be relatively sane. Not all the way, of course, but we won't hold them accountable for all that, right? But they're talking kind of normal. Like, hey, maybe people matter. Maybe we shouldn't kill one another. They're even honest about Trump sometimes. But along with Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, we've also got Candace Owens, and we had Charlie Kirk, and now we've got Candace Owens coming out and saying, oh, that Macron's wife is a man. More truth. Oh, transgenderism, stupid. Well, even Joe Rogan's on that bandwagon, right? We've got these forces in place that are laughing at the left now, laughing at the transgenders, which that makes sense, right? We never used to think that was normal. We got to transgenderize our babies when they're born. So there's some crazy stuff going on. And now we're back to some normal stuff. But why would the CIA, which also put on a show for us just a few months ago with the whole Charlie Kirk thing, and that's still going on with Candace Owens, and she's revealing all the, the government's involved, and the FBI's corrupt, and the assassination attempt on Trump was fake, and the whole thingy is fake now, and these are the guys behind the truth. And they're coming out and they're telling us the truth. But they all work for the CIA. How do we know? Because they were on these reputable news shows. Candace Owens was reputable. She was working for Ben Shapiro, another conservative and supposedly reputable. And everybody loved her, and she was one of the biggest talking heads, whatever, out there. Everybody was watching Candace Owens. It was like a Joe Rogan hour of Candace Owens every day, telling us all this interesting stuff. But she starts off telling us about transgenders and how all these men that dress up like women are out there, and how, she exposed it. The whole transgender thing, now she's exposing the government. Tucker Carlson's exposing it. Megan Ryan's exposing. They're all on each other's programs. Joe Rogan's got them all on their programs. He kind of plays a little bit of a neutral role, but he's kind of on their side. And all of them, Alex Jones is always on the Alex Jones is another one of these CIA agents telling us all the truth. So why would the government want to tell us the truth? Well, because notice that at the very same moment we've got all the truth, we've got Candace Owens, and she's standing up for us. She's in a knockdown, drag-out battle with Erica Kirk, who's, apparently working through the government and Israeli intelligence. Last I heard, Candace Owens is saying that Erica Kirk, the day before the assassination, was meeting with the military, and there were these Egyptian airplanes that keep following her around for years or whatever. They were all there in this little place in Utah that day, and Erica Kirk was meeting with the military and the FBI. There was no standard people protecting Kirk. It was just the FBI all around. They were taking down cameras and subverting information, lying about this guy that's supposedly going to court. We'll probably never hear anything about his court case because they'll just shove it under the rug because we've already found out that he's working for the FBI and all of this. So why are they exposing the Jewish people? See, this is what's really going on. Tucker Carlson's exposing Israel and their intelligence infiltration and propaganda. And Candace is exposing this. And Megyn Kelly is exposing the Israeli Jewish intelligence connection. But you see, they don't like him. They fired him. Well, that's the cover story. That's what they had to do publicly, brutally, and talk about it for months about, oh, Fox News is falling apart and they fired Megyn Kelly. Then they fired Tucker. What's going on? It's crazy. Oh my goodness, Trump's president. Oh my goodness, Candace Owens don't like Jews. Oh no, Kanye West don't like Jews. There's all this talk that started about, I don't know, a couple of years ago or something, and we're like shocked, waiting for them all to get fired or taken off the air. Remember, Roseanne Barr was saying stuff about Jews. It all came out at the same time. It was orchestrated. They had to fire them and identify them as the opposition to make you believe that the government, which was then in the hands of, they wanted you to believe the liberals, and they're separate. Conservative liberals, you see, and these darn liberals took over Fox News. It was them, right? Fox News was good people. They were conservative, with Rush Limbaugh and all the rest, and then now these darn liberals, who are they? Communists. Oh, maybe they were Jews. They took over. Well, they didn't tell you they'd taken over lock, stock, and barrel years before. And the way they take over is every 4 years they swing a pendulum and they say, oh, here's the people in power, Democrats. Or now over here it's the conservatives. And so for years, Phil Donahue's talking about boarding your children and all this insanity. Now we're talking about transgenderizing them. But it's the liberal, right? And the conservatives, they didn't have any power, or the people that was for common sense, right? We were being railroaded and we were all pissed off and mad. Like it was a huge genocide of all white people and their culture and Christianity. Well, it looked like that. Everybody was against Christianity. Now, Tucker Carlson's Christian. Alex Jones is Christian. Oh, even Trump's a Christian. It's all propaganda. But now, instead of conservative liberal, we're going into some deep, scary territory. We're going into hard-nosed, straight-up Christian beliefs, even Christian nationalism. And then the pendulum on the other side is, oh, we want to kill all your children and suicide your mentally ill and have 15-minute cities and you will comply and all of this thingy in your arm and blah. Well, you see, it's a choice. We're in a ritual. We're in a Masonic initiation. All of you made your vows to your little umbrella organizations in the Masonic worldwide delusion. If you're Jehovah's Witnesses, you're stuck in a mind control. And you vowed, your higher ups have made vows. They can't stop. They can diddle the children, but they can't get out. They're done, right? So they might as well just keep diddling them. And if you're a Catholic priest, you just keep on diddling those kids because now you're up to your Adam's apple in this. Even your boots aren't going to keep you from getting wet. And this is not just ordinary water. It's stinky water. And you'll suffocate and die. And it's rising. See, so all you can do is stay in the pool and die because you can't get out because you were hoodwinked, bamboozled, blackmailed by Epstein. We're never going to hear anything about the Epstein files or who's on them or anything. We're not going to get to the bottom of anything. We already know the reality and they know we know it. Everything got out. It's getting out there. And they tried suppressing it for a few years, taking people down. They'd lose their channel, all of that kind of thing. And it didn't really work because people were getting mad. So now they let you say whatever you want, but they got to have some strong voices that are out there saying what they think you'll accept as the strong voice, so that somebody's saying it and you're like, oh, well, not to worry, somebody's aware that the bad things are going on. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative. If you're conservative, you're like, what is this? All these transgenders is crazy. But then you got some people that are Christians and they're coming out and they're saying, oh, it's terrible. And you're like, well, at least somebody's saying something. And then the other side, they're shocked that the conservatives have taken over the world and they're executing people and all these terrible things. And they're like, well, we've got to have somebody on our side. And they've got their liberal voices like Newsom or whoever. And they think that somebody's doing something and it's all going to work out and you don't have to worry about it. So it's controlled opposition. They can control what Tucker says. He can say something and you can hear it. Many of you will believe it. They're killing people in Canada, and they are, you see. But here's the thing. If Tucker Carlson said they were killing people and murdering people and selling their organs and it wasn't true, it wouldn't be what they're trying to accomplish with their propaganda. So they're not telling people lies. There's enough insanity in the world that it's bad enough they don't need to invent bad things. They know there are bad things going on. So what they need to do is make it look like it's just somebody's opinion that it's a bad thing. There's another side to the story. So if they just had people running around exposing all the bad things, good people exposing bad things that weren't working for the CIA, like if they allowed me to expose it, then everybody would listen. If they would let me get out and tell people and I would go viral, then they'd all say, oh my goodness, there's bad things going on. And David Vos is telling us, and the whole government is evil. But this way, they show, depending on whether you're liberal or conservative, you'll find somebody talking your language, and you'll say, oh, the government's exposing it. Tucker Carlson's official. Candace Owens, she's one of the minority. She's on our side. She's speaking up for us. So we feel better. But they also have the other side. Now, whatever thing it is, if it's something really bad that they want to do, they'll do that bad thing, and then they'll have somebody expose it that's controlled opposition. See, that won't go too far. That will just articulate why it's wrong, like Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens. And then they'll have another side, like Erica Kirk or whoever, that says, oh, how stupid. We're not trying to kill them. They just want to die. Man, let them die. We're not harvesting their organs. They're offering them to us. And it's an epidemic where we don't have enough organs and we don't have enough blood. We need more blood. We're saving lives, buddy. And then you have two sides of the story, but controlled sides, you see. Tucker Carlson's only telling you half, not even half, of what the truth is. Okay, it's bad enough what he's saying, that people are killing each other in Canada, right? The government's killing people. That's terrible. But what if Tucker Carlson came right straight out and told you the truth? That everybody in government is trying to kill you. That you're going to be in a one world government. There's no way out. AI is going to kill you and you're done. You'll never work your way out of this maze because you're too far gone. He's not going to tell you that the language itself is a construct that is keeping you in this prison. He's not going to tell you that we really don't need prisons, that government is mind control and prisons and all the laws and the courts and the police are all bad and we need to get rid of government and military. So, see how much that he could tell you that's true, but they never tell you the whole truth. They don't say that all the Christian religions are corrupt. They're just like, oh, we're Christian. See, but it's not the real truth. Tucker Carlson's only giving you one sliver of the truth, which is shocking enough for those of us who assume there's probably a lot more truth that we're not being told. But when he tells us, then we feel comforted. See, and it's just enough to really piss off the other side. and they can have civil war, so they love it. But let me show you how this works. Now, as I already said, I don't know how long ago it was that Candace Owens started coming out with all of this. The Jews are bad, transgenders are bad, and we were shocked to hear her say it. But it was about the same time as Charlie Kirk, right? Was doing all this in front of the schools, and the kids were coming out and they were asking questions, and he was defending conservatism and we don't need transgenders, but he didn't go so far as to tell you all the stuff that I was just now telling you before. And at that very same time, Alex Jones was also, there was this big showdown where we were supposed to think that the evil people was trying to take down Alex Jones, and they sued him for $1 billion. It's terrible, but at least we had a hero. We had Alex. Then we had Tucker. Oh, and Megan Ryan. Oh my goodness, we got all these heroes. But what you don't realize is this been going on, and back in the 70s or whatever years, the early 80s, we had Phil Donahue coming on every day at 3 o'clock telling us to abort our children, debating whether we should, debating whether black people are inferior or not, right? And debating whether black people are too stupid and that's why they live in the cities, in the inner cities, and they can't get a job. And then we debate that with another person that says, oh, no, they're being persecuted and they're the only people that have ever been persecuted and we need reparations. And it was two extreme ideas, but nobody could actually come on and tell you then that they were government, the CIA was murdering and torturing minorities in the inner cities. They were, and drugging them and imprisoning them without due process. But they wanted to do this to everybody. And in a country like the United States, which back then was mostly white, they couldn't just start killing white people. So they had to do it to the black people as a test run. And then us white people would say, oh, well, they're just stupid people. They're poor. They deserve it. And then once we didn't care, and we were on record saying, yeah, we don't like them. They're doing it to themselves. They're just idiots. Then they could do it to us. See, because in other words, basically we were consenting to doing it to somebody. So therefore now they could do it to us. And now the whole diggity dang dong United States is being rounded up, taken to jails, drugged, tortured. See, it's just that they needed to start somewhere. This is how they got AIDS going, right? They put it in aspirin. Then they sent it to Africa, got a lot of people sick over there. And we were like, oh, those stupid people, they're dirty or they're not living right. That's why they're all dying. They're all gay and it's their fault. So then when it started proliferating over here, it started off in the gay community. So they could get everybody to consent that it's okay because they're gay people. So they don't deserve to live. Or they're poor people. They don't deserve to live. And once we said, hey, it's okay, we consented. And then, boom, we got the thingy, right? Now we're all getting the thingy. And now we're all dying. You see, there are reasons for their madness, guys. Before they could start killing all the babies, they had to get a number of people fighting for the killing of babies. So they told the people, oh, there's some bad people, and they don't like women, and they don't want women to have rights. And so when women want to kill their own babies, it's part of their own body. They're these terrible patriarchs that run the world. They're trying to take away your right to kill your baby. And then they had all the women like, hey, well, that's true, And they convince you. And once the women said, yeah, we have the right to do whatever we want with our body, then that's consent. So you debate something until somebody in the country consents. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody consented, but what it did mean is that a number of people, maybe 10, 20% consented to killing the babies. And then another 70% didn't say anything. So that's consent by silence. And then that's 90%. And now they can literally do it because we consented. When we do nothing, we consent. So you get two sides to debate it, and most of the world sit back and watch the debate. We're all watching the Christians being at war, basically. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens, and Kanye West and Charlie Kirk and these guys are debating with the other side about whether or not we should be Christians and we should be wholesome and we should be good people and we should have normal constructive ideas and we should love one another. Well, that seems like normal, but first you got to have 4 years of people burning down the cities, transgenderizing your babies, and then we got to have a war and we got to debate it. Now we're debating it. Once you start debating whether or not we should burn down cities, whether or not we should just kill all the babies and drug everybody and maybe just put them all to death by suiciding themselves and steal all their organs. By that time, everybody's just in some kind of amazement. They're just staring. They're like, well, maybe this is normal. I don't know. But look, we got voices on both sides. We'll wait. We'll sit back and we'll listen to the show. Silence. We won't say anything. That's our consent. And then they're like, well, you've got to agree to this before you can buy or sell, right? The government. You agree to the government in our back and forth to both extremes, and you don't think that government's bad, that maybe we should just all live under the Constitution the way we're supposed to, but you accept it. Now that's your consent, and you've signed at the bottom line, and you're done. That's how it works. Debating it back and forth and swinging it back and forth. See, if they just laid it out on you, you'd complain, there'd be an uprising, and we'd overthrow the government. But they lay out half of it, we complain, then they bring some people in and say, oh, I can't do that. And then you think, oh, okay, we got somebody fighting for us. And then boom, they go the other extreme. But they never really fix what they did with the liberals doing what they did. They just go completely the other side to the conservatives, and they do some crazy things. And then the liberals complain, and then they swing it back to the other side, and you don't fix what the conservatives did. And it's just back and forth. It's like, it's kind of a way that you can move forward when you're trying to push through something instead of going straight through it. You got to wiggle your way through. You got to push on one side and make a little headway and then push on the other. And you keep wiggling your way until you get in, right? You ever seen a cat trying to get under the covers? They don't just go right straight in. They got to kind of nudge their head up and down and around and wiggle around. And finally they weasel their way in. And that's how they do it. We've been debating these things, various different crazy things for centuries. For a while, we have to debate whether we should go to war at all. Vietnam, right? Iraq. And then they make a hippie movement that says, we don't want to go to war. Okay, then the hippie movement for 2 or 3 years protests, and in the street they're protesting, and we say, oh, well, somebody's protesting, so, it must be okay. Government works because some people don't like what they're doing, so there's got to be somebody in the world that's good, and we'll just sit back and let this keep on going. We'll keep voting and all of this, giving them consent to keep doing what they're doing. And then about the time that everybody's convinced that the hippies are right, we shouldn't go to war and kill these kooks, at that point we get a new president and he says we're getting everybody out of Vietnam. And we're like, yay, we won. Okay, but was anybody prosecuted for murdering people over there in Korea and Vietnam? No, nobody was prosecuted. And it was just, we did it. There it is. Right? You didn't like it, but, so we'll stop for now until we go to Iraq, and then we'll do it again, right? But it's never fixed. It's just a way to do it, shock you, get it done, and get out. And then we go do something evil on the other side. And we make it look like that's one side and this is the other side, and yet both of them are extreme evils. And in the middle, we never light ever. We never get to a place where it's just common sense truth. That's the problem that we're having. So now let me show you at this point the details of what Tucker Carlson said and give you a little idea of what's coming in the future and how this may indicate that they really do believe that by 2028 it's all over. It could be 29. I don't know the exact year. But it looks like they're preparing for the end. And they've got it literally in the legislation that come 2027, they can take people off the streets and murder them and harvest their organs. And it's okay. It's legal. Watch this. So, okay. I asked AI. What is the MAID's program in Canada? Tucker Carlson says they're murdering people and children who can't pay the rent and harvesting their organs and blood. They say the medical assistance in dying, MAID program in Canada is a legal process that allows eligible individuals to receive help from a medical practitioner to end their lives under very specific circumstances and rules. Oh, okay, well then it's all right because it's under very specific circumstances, like if they want to, and they sign a piece of paper saying, kill me. I get it. Well, that's all right then. The claims made by Tucker Carlson that the Canadian government is murdering people, including children who cannot pay rent, and harvesting their organs and blood are false. What is the MAID program? MAID was first legalized in Canada in 2016 for individuals with terminal conditions whose natural death was reasonably foreseeable. Also, if they aren't eating good and they're eating poison, chips and cookies and, canned food, box food, restaurant, going out to eat at McDonald's, and they look up their rectum and see a little bit of preconditioned cancer forming. And some bozo with a white ground says, oh yeah, you got cancer and you probably have a few months to live, maybe a year, and you're gonna die. Now, of course, we know that's a lie put into place because there's a lot of laws that's being put into place. We can get to this the final judgment here. But the truth is, of course, you're not dying. Your body heals itself. You need to go on a diet free from all of these bad things, the chemicals that the government's giving you, because by this time, the government's already giving you a lot of medical drugs that are chemicals that are murdering you and causing all of this. If you did want to try to get well and you had cancer, they would start radiating your body and all of your biological ability to heal would be completely removed. Yeah, they could radiate all the cancer out, but they've also radiated all ability for your body to heal. So now they're like, well, because we radiated your body out and you can't heal, now do you want to die or not? Just sign right here at the bottom line. And probably there's incentives to get you to sign. Like, if you sign, we're going to give money to your children or something, Don't worry, they won't have to worry about it. We'll set them up in a housing project or we'll give them some vouchers so they can get some food. Okay, let me die then. I'm sorry. I'm just tired. In other words, you brainwashed them, convinced them that they're going to die, because I guarantee the truth is nobody has to die if you eat right and live right. Nobody. And if the conditions in Canada are getting so bad that mentally ill people are wanting to die, and you're telling them it's a medical condition, then it is the most diabolical thing I've ever heard in my life. Of course, it's been going on in California for years and years and years. And probably over in New England or wherever New Hampshire, wherever the liberal states are, New York. This has been going on in Oregon and Washington, California. And now I guess it's in Denver, right? Because it's a big city, right? And most of the eastern Appalachian seaboard. Because everybody's now liberal. Of course, they're sending all the conservatives down to Texas and Florida, where they're about to drop a nuclear bomb in the ocean, cause a tsunami, and wipe out the entire area. Or, yeah, that's where they're building all these nuclear power plants so they can have AI, and of course that's going to blow up and they'll be gone. But, yeah, this is what's going on. But here's the thing, to be eligible for MAID, a person must meet strict criteria. You've got to be at least 18 years old, and mentally competent to make healthcare decisions. Now, hold on. In 2027, they're going to allow people who are mentally ill to sign a paper and die. But you've got to be mentally competent. But if you're mentally ill, you can't be what? You see how ignorant that is. You got to be eligible for publicly funded health services. Oh, so if you're not poor See, if you're not really dirt poor, you can't die. Oh, the rich people, if they've got money, we can't do this to them. You've got to be so poor that you're eligible for publicly funded health services. But if you can pay for your own health services, you don't get to die. In other words, all the poor people will convince them with advertisements and will basically have programs and propaganda telling them that they're all sick and they're dying and ain't nothing we can do for them. And hey, if you're poor, you're eligible. If you don't got any money, you're eligible for us to kill you if you want. They got to make a voluntary request that is not the result of an external pressure. Well, are you telling me that none of these people have any counsel? And if they have counsel, they're being pressured. You know, well, I hurt really bad here and it's just excruciating. Well, their response as counsel would be, well, we can't tell you that that pain is too hard for you to bear. And if you think it's too much, then you have every right to kill yourself. Oh, that's the counsel they're getting. You have to have grievous and irremediable medical condition, including a serious and incurable illness. Well, in other words, diabetes, right? That's incurable. It's an illness. It's causing pain. Any basically arthritis, autoimmune deficiencies, anything. Disease or disability. Your back hurts from arthritis. You can't hardly walk around. They've already tried cutting off your leg and putting a plastic one on. And of course, that made it worse. And now they got to kill you. Guys, do you hear this? And be in an advanced state of irreversible decline. Yeah, you're going to be in an irreversible decline if you don't reverse your eating and living habits and the propaganda going into your ear. Experience unbearable physical or psychological suffering that cannot be relieved under conditions they consider acceptable. The law currently excludes individuals whose sole underlying condition is a mental illness until March 17th, 2027. Why until then? Is that the last year when the zombies come out and we want to just kill them all right before Christ returns in 2028? Or maybe 2029, maybe 2 years? But it's interesting, March 17th, that's just about the spring equinox. So maybe that's 1 year or 2 years before Christ comes. We don't know. And they're probably thinking that's about the time when the war is going to be going and spreading and disease and famine that they've caused and all these terrible things. And now we could just like go take all the homeless that don't have jobs, they're on the street, they're mentally ill. And now we can click that clause in that says, even if you're just mentally ill, you can ask to be killed. Or we can persuade you with our counsels, right? And yeah, there's an incentive for your members of your family. Will give them a little bit of money, maybe a voucher for a house. And by March of 2027, we're going to start taking all the homeless and the mentally ill lying around because of the war, because of the atrocities and calamities and things that have happened over the next 2 years. There are going to be all these people lying around like there are in California, but there'll probably be about 3 times more than that, or 100 times more. Maybe everybody is lying around like zombies, and we'll just kill them all. It's going into effect March 17th, 2027, and I'll read you that here in a minute. Addressing the claims, murdering people and children who can't pay rent. Obviously, that's sarcasm, but it is the actual truth. But they're going to treat it like it's some kind of insane lie, you know. There is no evidence of the government or medical professionals murdering people. Well, maybe not yet, but probably there is yet, as I've already explained. But even the way they're explaining it, they might be able to get around saying it's not happening right now. But it's put into place and people will have the law on their side and the legal way to do this. And down the road, if they just kill somebody and claim, oh, we forged his signature, how are you going to prove that? Eligibility requires a serious medical condition and a voluntary informed request. So if you got diabetes, you could just opt out, right? If you got back pain or your knee don't hurt and you don't like walking with that pain, hunched over. Basically, you might have HIV. You could, it could be anything. And you can choose to die. But it says it's voluntary, not financial status. But they just said that you don't qualify for this unless you're poor. So it's a lie. I'll ask AI here in a second about that. How they say you can only qualify if you're poor, but it has nothing to do with financial status. While critics have raised concerns that some impoverished or disabled patients might be driven to request MAID due to a lack of social support, MAID eligibility is tied to medical suffering and not a lack of housing or inability to pay rent. Well, suffering. I asked a doctor one time. By the way, his name was Dr. Faith. Do you think he was born with that name? I don't know. But it's a big scam, just like our history, right? And all these cosmic deities that created the world that are just cosmic powers. Okay, yeah, our doctors now are legal fictions. But I asked him, I said, why do you keep giving people Oxycontin, which is heroin? It takes away pain, but also begins to deaden your hearing, your eyesight, your body, and you just slowly die and stop your heart and you're gone. But you just keep giving him the pain pill, knowing that they're not really in pain, but that this medication relieves the throbbing and the inflammation. And as soon as they stop the drug, the inflammation comes back. It has nothing to do with the actual original pain, that you're perpetuating the pain. And he looked at me, and we were at McDonald's having coffee, and some of the old farts in McDonald's one morning were sitting around, and I was sitting nearby and I could hear what they were saying. And I asked him that question. And he looked at me and he said, well, it's not my job to tell them how much pain they can take. And then he got up and took his McMuffin and left. And I don't think he liked me after that, because, you see, the reason he really did it is because he makes money selling Oxycontin to people and putting them in a critical condition where they just get worse and worse and then they die. And he knows it deep down, but on his conscious mind level, he's doing it because he makes a lot of money. He doesn't want to be confronted with the truth. So the law requires that patients be informed of available support services and treatment options. Yeah, so here's what they do. We informed the patient that they could go through months and years of some kind of torture in a radiation chamber, radiating their lungs out. But they said, no, they didn't want to do that, so we had to kill them. Yeah, that's kind of what that's about. Harvesting their organs and blood. Well, that's, of course, got to be false, right? Organ donation, it's possible after MAID. Possible? In other words, all you got to do is sign a little thing on the form that says we get to keep your organs and your blood. Isn't that an incentive for the counselors who get a little bit of a kickback if they can sell some of your blood and your... I mean, how much is blood going for these days? A pint of blood. If you died, they get what? How many pints? Like, kind of like a car, 5 quarts, and each quart's like a $500 or, they're making some money off that. Your organs, a liver might get, I don't know, what is it, $10,000 on the market? Well, they have every incentive to let you think that you're about to die and there's nothing they can do. So, strict ethical guidelines ensure that the decision for MAID comes first, and the organ donation discussion is handled by a separate transplant team to avoid any conflict of interest or pressure. So as you're going under the anesthesia, they're like, hey, don't go to sleep yet. We got to ask you, can we have all your organs in your blood, please? They're in delirium. They're like, just please stop. I don't want the pain. Do whatever you got to do. Let me out of here. So the dead donor rule is strictly observed. What? The dead donor rule? Are you kidding me? Meaning organs are only retrieved after the patient is declared dead. Is he dead, guy? Well, I don't feel a pulse. All right, take his heart. The Tucker Carlson statements are considered a broader criticisms of expanding scope of Canada's euthanasia laws. So I said, why did you say until March 17th, 2027? The reference to March 17th, 2027 marks the specific legal deadline to which the Canadian government has postponed the expansion of MAID for individuals whose sole medical condition is a mental illness. Under current 2025 laws, a person cannot access MAID if their only underlying condition is a mental disorder. Well, look, if you've got a mental disorder that you want to die, I guarantee you probably also got some other condition like back pain or diabetes or some other thing. This date is significant for several reasons. Reason for 2027 deadline, the system readiness. The federal government's got to get ready for these people. We got a lot of billions of people to kill. We can't do it yet. The federal government passed Bill C-62 in February of 2024 to delay the expansion. Oh, we got to delay the expansion. We're going to expand the killing of people after a parliamentary committee and provincial health ministers concluded that the healthcare system was not yet prepared to safely and consistently assess such complex causes. Well, then why are they doing it at all if they're not yet ready to assess complex cases? And yet they're letting people die for any reason. They need additional preparation time. The delay provides more time for provinces and territories to develop standards of practice, clinical guidelines, and training for medical practitioners. Now, you have to understand, guys, that mental illness is a farce anyway. No one is mentally ill. I mean, you are mentally ill if the word ill means you have a dis-ease. You're not at ease. You're not at ease, of course. You are ill in that sense. But the idea of illness in that sense is not the same as something that's incurable or some kind of a thing that's taking over your body that you're just going to die, and that proper living and diet and sunshine and exercise wouldn't help. It is simply well, it's kind of like what we were talking about yesterday, where words in English don't mean what they actually mean. So it's all some kind of delusion. The words themselves are confusing us. It's a mesmerism, it's a hypnotism, and it's a control by the government, which means to govern your mind or your ment, which is a Latin word that means mind. So, Sunset Clause 2021 law originally included a sunset clause that would have automatically allowed mental illness as a sole condition. But they had to extend that, wait a little longer until the Great Tribulation breaks out, and we got all these zombies running around, millions and millions of homeless people just lying around in the streets shitting on themselves, and we'll just, bring them in, get them to sign a piece of paper after we've given them mental drugs that are basically like hypnotic, and you can just tell the patient what to do and they'll do it, through suffering. They've given them Haldol, they're drooling, they don't know where they're at or who they are, and a doctor comes up and says, here, sign this, and they do. And then they could just run them through the Auschwitz, the oven, the shot, the thingy, well, anyway, we just take their organs and harvest their blood. Because, after all, that's in the clause. Now, let me ask them about this thing. So I said, you said you have to be mentally competent to ask and receive assisted suicide. Yet you say they will be, by 2027, allowing mentally incompetent people to decide to be assisted in death. How is that not a contradiction in terms? In medical and legal terms, mental illness and mental incompetence, lack of capacity, are two different things. This distinction is central to why the Canadian government plans to expand eligibility for the medical assistance in dying program in 2027 while still maintaining strict requirements for decision-making capacity. Mental illness versus mental incompetence. Mental illness refers to a diagnosed health condition, such as severe depression, schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder. Mental competence, capacity, refers to a person's legal and medical ability to understand the information relevant to a health decision and appreciate the consequences of that decision. But if you're depressed and suffering, how can you know the consequences? You're just wanting to get rid of the pain. And they're lying to you about whether they could get rid of the pain if you started eating right. So you're under the propaganda that you're just dying because God is evil and he's torturing you. A person can live with a severe mental illness and still be fully mentally competent to make complex medical decisions. For example, someone with chronic treatment-resistant depression may have the capacity to understand their diagnosis, their prognosis, and their implications of ending their life, even if their illness causes them unbearable suffering. So if you're depressed and sad and you want to die, you can die. We'll just let you die. We'll actually kill you for you. The 2027 expansion will allow mental illness to be the sole underlying medical condition for a MAID request. However, the requirement for mental competence will not change. Even after March 17th, 2027, an individual must still be mentally competent. But if they're depressed and delusional on some kind of medical mind-altering drugs that the government's giving them, that where they don't know who they are, where they're at, they're drooling in a corner in a fetal position, yeah, they could still decide to die because that's too much suffering. Well, they're in that condition because you've given them all these mental drugs. You've given them a mental lobotomy. This is insane. So, I mean, I think it's ridiculous, guys. Absolutely. But anyway, I'm going to end it there. We're coming up on an hour. I think we probably had enough of some bad news today. But that picture you see on your screen was the video I did yesterday. I recommend everybody go and watch that. It's very important that you watch it. It's really, really important that you know this information. And the best information in my videos is always by the time you get about halfway through or towards the end, is where I really get to the very important information. But please go and watch that video that you see on your screen there. Anywho, and if you can, the one where, before that one, where I'm out walking, where we start the whole process of, it's kind of a 2-part series. Anywho, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. You know the Lord loves you all. He loves everybody. His grace and his peace will always be with you. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.